Hello, hello. Um, Welcome back. Yeah, it's been a little while. First stream from the new house. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. There's a few of you here, and I've still got stuff everywhere, so excuse the mess. Hey, who have we got? We got Ian, we've got Graham, we've got Midwan, we've got RJ Firth. Welcome along, guys. Great to see us. Hey. Right, so I've got some random mods playing there, so let me know if they're too quiet or too loud, or what the story is there, because I'm kind of all over the place. Oh yeah, I've got my crash counter up as well, because loads of people have death counters. Yeah, you need a crash counter when you're doing coding, especially on the Amiga. Now, I am cheating slightly because I'm using, yeah, absolutely. I am using, I'm shouting over my own headphones here, so this is actually very loud for me. Sorry. That's better. Yes, I'm using. What was I going to say there? Yes, I'm using WinUIE for this, and I just think for coding stuff, it's just a little bit easier to have the emulator going. You know, Hot Dog, thank you, Hot Dog. Thank you very much for the follow. Welcome along. Oh yeah. The Amiga is as anyone will tell you, a very crashable machine. It loves to just fall over and die sometimes. So that is I'm expecting to use my crash counter during the stream. Let me see, where's my mouse gone? There we go. Okay, so yes, welcome along. I know there are a couple of people here who are who are fairly new to Blitz, and so I might cover just a couple of little things about Blitz Basic and Amiga Blitz. But as we get into it. But yeah, please ask questions. Ask as many questions as you need to. I'm happy to chat away about any of this stuff. And but yeah, let me know if there's anything that's kind of passing you by or whatever. Okay, so the general plan of this is to just because of the jam we've got the Blitz Basic tool jam going on at the moment, so we're going to do a thingy jam here, and there's the Amiga tool jams going on. Zuperdan is sorting that out for us. Hello Zuperdan, you're there in the chat as well. Yeah, so this is like a game jam, only not for games. So hey Simpson Dustin, welcome along. Thank you very much for the follow. So yeah, so this is Zuperdan's game jam for not games. So basically it's a jam to create a tool. It's on for the next few months. All the details are there in the link I've posted, and but yeah, give it a go. Now it's not limited to Blitz Basic, but a lot of people associate Blitz Basic with game creation, and it's fair enough, but it's a pretty solid setup for doing system friendly applications as well. Now obviously C is kind of like the big player there, and it's probably the way to go really for doing serious programs, serious coding, like very, very serious stuff. But for an awful lot of stuff, Blitz Basic is more than adequate, and especially for a jam or something like that, it might be even easier to get into if you haven't really programmed on the Amiga before. So I'm specifically going to go looking at MUI or MUI, depending on where you grew up, I suppose. So and that's sort of like a third-party toolkit that's kind of it's pretty much standard, and almost everyone has it, and a lot of software uses it. But Blitz Basic has support, and it has done for a long time, and so I'm going to use that for this particular stream, because it makes it is an easy system to use, really. Okay, so I am going to be using Amiga Blitz 3 for this. So I've got this set up here, and it's 3.8 is the version I'm using. There is 3.9.6 or 3.9.7 at the moment. Some of the later versions have been a bit crash happy, and I know 3.8 works, so that's why I'm with this. But 3.9.9 is it? There you go. Yeah, so I think a lot of stuff has been improved with the more recent versions, but like sort of 3.9.1 and 3.9.2, it was quite a bit crashy. So I don't know what 3.9.9 is. Hopefully it's fine, and I'm sure it will be, especially for stuff that isn't banging hardware and things. But hopefully it holds together for you. Hello, Amiga Gamer. Welcome along. Oh, I see what you did there. Yes, and there are a few different toolkits, right? So you've got, let me just give a little overview of this. So basically, you've got the intuition gadgets, okay? Oh, you can't see my thumb. Counting here. You've got the intuition gadgets, and they are part of Kickstart 1. And they're the very, very simple things, and a lot of sort of OS 1 programs use them. They're not particularly sophisticated, and to be honest, they look a bit ugly in the Kickstart 2 color schemes. Hey, Bill's legitimate son. Bill's illegitimate son. Welcome along. Thanks very much. Oh yeah, so hopefully they've fixed up a good few things there. Hey, welcome along, Pixelplop. Thanks for coming in. But yeah, so you've got intuition gadgets, which are, like I say, the very, very early stuff. They're a bit ugly when you use them on a modern version of the OS, so I tend to avoid them, except for when you really need Kickstart 1 compatibility, or Workbench 1 compatibility. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, look at that, a subscription and everything. Hot doggo, thank you very much. I haven't even typed anything. But thank you. Yeah, so the intuition gadgets, you don't really use them anymore unless you really, really need to. GAD tools came in with Kickstart 2, Workbench 2, and they're, all the versions of Amiga OS since then support them, and you can also use them for OS 4, for MorphOS, and for basically they work on everything. They're the standard gadgets that you'll know from Workbench 2, Workbench 3. Now, and after that, it starts to get narrowed down a little bit again. So you've got MUI, which has been around for ages and was created because GAD tools turned out to be a bit limited in how it works. GAD tools is good enough to do most things, but it takes a lot of work to get it to do some things. So MUI was kind of created as a reaction to that. But so also were toolkits like Triton, Wizard, and ClassAct. Now, later on, ClassAct got integrated into the OS itself with 3.5 and 3.9, and now it's made a return in 3.2. So that's kind of considered a standard toolkit now, but Blitz doesn't support it. So it'll take someone's to, yeah. Fair enough. I'll talk to you later. So Blitz, so someone would have to write basically a ClassAct or reaction library for Amiga Blitz or for Blitz Basic, and something I've toyed with, but I've too many projects as it is, too little time, too much stuff on my list. So I'll leave that to someone who'd be more familiar with it, maybe. But yeah, it is possible, and Blitz is a kind of a very extensible language, and it's possible to kind of it's almost automatic to put wrappers around C libraries, and it's very, very easy to do. So at some point someone will do it, and you'll have reaction applications then. But for now, we don't. So yeah. Again, speaking of the list, I have that on the list. I have yeah. I'm not going to start. I have my whiteboard over here, which is chock full of stuff, and yeah. So by rights, I probably shouldn't even be streaming, but however. Oh yeah. Okay, so basically that's why I'm going with MUI today, or MUI, but I might actually do a stream on GAD tools as well, because sometimes it is really useful to make a GAD tools, a program that will work on everything or almost everything. And I do use GAD tools for things like I did SMB mounter, and that has both the GAD tools version and the MUI version. And it's two different executables, but basically it's kind of the same program with using the two different GUI styles. And yeah, so I'll have to I'll probably do another stream on GAD tools at some point, or maybe a couple on both of them. It depends on how much I get covered. Okay, so some basics. This is Amiga Blitz 3. And I also have Blitz 2 that I can run. Blitz 2 looks like that, so it's a little bit more primitive. But either one will do, and they both basically have the same kind of support. So yeah, so I'm going to go through it on Amiga Blitz 3 purely because I prefer this environment. Now I normally use it on a big graphics card screen, either emulated or my real Amiga. So yes, you know what, that is not something that I haven't been thinking about, because like I said, there are some issues with GAD2 or with SMB mounter nowadays, that it doesn't support the new version of SMB file system, and yeah, and I'm just not getting the time to look at it. So I might actually just open it up and let someone fix it for me and be embarrassed by my terrible coding practices. But yeah, absolutely, I'll probably do that at some point. But yeah, so but yeah, the code will basically, it's 99% compatible between Blitz 2 and Amiga Blitz 3. So it doesn't really matter which one you're using for this. I normally use it on a much higher resolution, and it gives you some extra space for a couple of extra windows that kind of, that list, you can list the libraries and commands, or the commands that are in libraries and things like that, which is, it's quite a nice little feature of this environment. So this to me looks a little bit cramped, and it feels a bit cramped because I'm used to a 1920 by 1200 resolution that I normally use. So, but anyway, we'll get going on this now. The full version of Blitz 2 and Amiga Blitz 3 comes with the MUI library built in, so it's already there and it's already sort of set up and ready to go. The easiest way to have a look at whether it's working is to type in like a very simple like any MUI command and see if it works. So what we're going to do is let me just have a look at well, see what we do is, and see, now that's turned blue, so straight away we know the library is loaded and ready because it recognizes the command. So so if you're very new to Blitz, it is a basic. It is, it will follow some of the let's say the paradigms of basic, but it does have a lot of kind of more advanced support. It's sort of like a second generation basic, somewhere between modern, like today basic and 8-bit basic, and so it has a lot of support for things like procedures and structs and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the things that you would normally program in C, to do with the OS, like just all the structs and pointers that are used, they can all be used in Blitz as well. Now, the first command here is MUI or MUI application title, and this just gives it a title. So so we're just going to call our program stream test, okay? And that's what it will look like. And what we're going to do first off, we are going to do WB startup. And now WB startup is a special command. Oh, music is a wee bit loud. Sorry. Yeah, thank you for letting me know. Where's the thingy? How's that? Is that better? That sounds better. Excellent. Cool. Sorry guys. I'm terrible at this. I don't have a proper setup here, so I'm kind of winging this with loads of virtual audio cables and things like that, so I don't really know what anyone can hear. Yeah, total professional. Okay, so WB startup is a very important command because that is what tells the Blitz compiler to add the special startup code that Workbench needs. If you don't include that command, it will crash as soon as you double click it. Okay, you don't need it if your program's only ever going to be run from the shell, but it's a good idea even if the shell program just in case someone goes in and double clicks it. But yeah, so that basically, when you start a program from Workbench, there's a little bit of communication that goes on, and if that doesn't happen, you get a crash. And so the WB startup basically at the top of almost every program. So we're going to do MUI application or MUI application title stream test, and Now, and there's another thing that is needed is you have to give it a sort of an internal MUI ID. So you do MUI, and this is kind of like sort of an identifier. And these are kind of similar to when you're setting up a commodity. And in fact, when you do it this way, it automatically creates a commodity for your program. So we'll just call this. We go all out. I don't know if there's a limit on the number of characters or anything like that, but we'll give that a go. What you can also do is, what we'll do is we'll give it a version as well. And you can just put your version, the standard version string in there. That's how you give it a version string, and that will show up, you know, when you do the version command or anything like that. That'll give you that information there. What I might actually do is save that just because things will happen. Okay, and just a little word on file formats. Okay, so Blitz Basic 2 will save by default in a tokenized format. So the commands aren't saved into plain text. The rest of the text is, but the actual tokenized commands that you see there, the words that are in blue, they will only show up as in there. They will only show up when you load it back into Blitz Basic. So there's basically a binary token. Okay. Amiga Blitz 3, if you save it .ab3, it will save it as plain text. And it's much better to do it that way. So the default in Amiga Blitz 3 is plain text, and that lets you load it into Blitz Basic 2 if you want. And Amiga Blitz 3 will load the tokenized ones in .bb2 format, or it will load plain text as well. But if you want to, like, you know, copy and paste, or, you know, send it to someone or something like that, it's best to use a plain text format. And so AB3 works well for that. What it does is it also saves sort of the project information in the same file. You can't see it. It saves it as a comment, so it'll show up as a comment in Blitz Basic 2. But that is actually quite important for programs like this. Sure, we'll cover that now. So in Amiga Blitz 3, you've got compiler settings. Blitz Basic 2, you've got a similar window. And you see in here, you've got various things, various settings like runtime error debugger and stuff like that. Don't worry about most of the stuff in here. Make smaller code. It takes a little bit longer to compile, but that's fine. But what's key here is residence. Now, if you're familiar with programming in C or some other languages, you know that, like for example, you'll have to load a header file or an include file. Basically, that contains all the definitions, all the structs, all the constants that you need for that particular library or for that particular setup. And this is you can do that in Blitz as well, and you can include files that are in Blitz format or plain text format. But Blitz has a system of residence, and these are pre-compiled, so they've already been through the preprocessor, and it makes compilation much quicker to use them that way. So there is MUI one. I think it's MUI2.res, and so you just give it that. Now in Blitz Basic 2, you need to give it a full path, which is blitzlibs MUI2.res. So it's basically the same thing. It's just all the constants, all the structs, all the definitions that are needed to run the MUI commands. If you don't have that, you get a thing like token not found or constant not defined, or you get errors like that at compile time. But for Amiga Blitz 3, it knows where to find them itself, so you don't need that. And MUI2.res, and it should be fine. Yeah, that looks fine. What I'm going to do though, after doing that, I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to change that to all.res. Now, all.res is a bigger file, but it also contains the standard OS constants, you know, for defining windows and things like that. And it's if you're using an OS, if you're making an OS friendly program, you're more than likely going to need something in there. So all.res is yeah, that's it. And once you save that, then it will remember that setting. Once you just save the source file, it'll remember. Okay. So far nothing is actually going to happen. This is just sort of defining our program. So now we need to plan out how we're going to how we're actually going to define our interface. So what I'm going to do is going to make a small window with a couple of buttons, and we'll work from there. Okay, just a couple of buttons, and we can just click the buttons. So I'm going to get a little bit of paper here, and we're going to do define some or show you what I'm defining, because I think it's a lot easier to see if you can visualize it. Can't find my notepad. 2 seconds. Oh. For the record, MUI2.res. Now, okay, so that's probably, they probably renamed them then, because there was MUI.res was the old one, and now MUI2 was kind of a new one. Okay, so yeah, well, basically one of those combinations will probably do it. You'll find that I think MUI2 or the new one covers extra classes like nlist and some of the kind of the very common extra classes, the additional classes that they're called custom classes, the additional gadgets and stuff that people have added onto MUI over the years. So it just includes some extra stuff. So it depends on what you're doing. One of them or both of them might work, but all.res is usually the most up-to-date resident file that there is anyway. So that will include the latest MUI, the latest OS includes, like, it'll probably include the 3.2 definitions as well, if it's that up to date, it should do anyway. So all.res is probably kind of a good one to go for. Now I can't find any notepad, so I'm going to steal a piece of paper from the printer, and actually I think it's getting a bit dark here, so hey, there we go. Big shiny head of me. I think I need a new light fitting. Okay. I got a decent pen. Totally prepared, I do have a pen. Ah, there. Hey, that works. Okay, so defining an interface in MUI, right? So if you're coming from GAD tools, and if you've used GAD tools before, it's quite primitive in how it works. It's nice and simple, as in you define your window and you say it's X number of pixels wide, X number of pixels high. Then you make a gadget at pixels, like let's say 10 down, 10 across. And you make the gadget 100 wide and 20 high, and then you put this text in it, and that's your button, which is very nice and simple, extremely straightforward. And then someone goes and chooses a different font, and then the text doesn't fit in the button anymore, or the window borders are a different thickness because they're using Visual Prefs or OS4. So there there are a lot of things that can happen that kind of quickly GAD tools starts to creak at the edges, starts to show its age. So there are ways around that, and I'll talk about them on the GAD tool stream. But MUI does away with that, so you don't define your window size. So you just tell it, I want a window and I want this stuff in it, and then MUI itself will calculate where everything goes. Now on more modern systems, you would obviously be able to just draw that on the screen. You know, you just drag and drop things and stretch them out and do whatever you want, and it will do that. We don't have the luxury of that, and there are some maybe tools that kind of work like that, but they don't. Either they don't support Blitz, or you know, they generate C code, or when I've used them in the past, they haven't been particularly stable. So you kind of have to just decide what your application window will look like. So I am just going to draw. I'm terrible at drawing here. I'm going to put 2 buttons. Oh. We're going to call it and okay, so I've just drawn that like that, and like just literally 2 buttons and an empty space above them. Now the empty space is important. Okay, so to do that, everything in MUI has to be made up of a group. So I'm going to do a little board around here, and I'll show you where the group is. I'm regretting drawing that crooked now. So you can see I've got a group there, and you can see just the dotted line. So those two buttons are a group, and a group can be either. Is there a way to force full screen? There's not. No, MUI. The whole point of it is that it is you know, you don't define it. It's kind of the user's preference, and it will open what it thinks is the best based on the user's preferences. So if the user has decided that your program should run on its own full screen, on its own separate screen, and be maximized, then they can snapshot that, and that will stay like that. But but that's up to the user, you see. So that's how you would do it. So if you wanted to make a full screen application that absolutely always takes up the full screen, MUI's not going to let you do that. Or well, you can. Okay, you can actually tell it what size you want, but it's strongly frowned upon, and the user can still override it. So it's not really going to. It's not going to work that way, I don't think. So you can, yeah, like I say, you can force it, but there's only so much you can do, and the user can always. The user is always king in MUI terms, as in they choose what it looks like, they choose, spacing, they choose the sizing and the fonts and stuff like that. But yeah, if you want to tell it to be full size, you can change all the properties, and you can define the properties like the size and the width and the height. Yeah, no, there's no way to just default. You can set a minimum and you can set a maximum, and you can set those properties. Absolutely, yeah. It's just it's just kind of frowned upon to kind of force people to do that. Like, so normally it will open up at an optimum size, and if the user wants it big, they make it big. Because if you force it to a certain size and the user's running really tiny fonts, it will look very empty. And if you force a small size and the user's using big fonts, it's going to look, you're going to lose some of the text out of the end of the gadgets. So that's it. That's worth bearing in mind. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna draw this again because that was a terrible picture. Yeah. So our window is basically going to look something like this. Okay, so you can see the dotted line there is around a group. So you have to define everything in groups. You can't just put a button in a window. You have to you define a group, and then the window contains the group, and that group contains other objects, and those other objects can be groups, they can be gadgets, they can be whatever, they can be text. So so what we'll do is we'll put a little text in there. Let's say. Okay, so we'll put a little text message in the middle. But what is important is that you have to view this in terms of the groups. So it's only a group can be a horizontal group, obviously going that way, or a vertical group going up and down. And it doesn't matter which it is, but you have to define that at the very start of creating the group. and then you fill that with items that can be other groups, and then you attach the parent, the outermost group, to the window. Okay, so how we're going to lay this out is, so we've got a blank space above and below the text. How do we do a blank space? Just do that. Actually, you know what? We'll leave out the blank spaces for now, just to see what kind of effect that has. I'll show you that soon. So what we have here is our window, and you can see we've got basically three items. We've got the window, okay, and then we've got the text, and below that we've got a group. So that's one group there. That's the Windows group. So you've got the text and then the group, and that's a vertical group with two items in it. Now this item is a group in itself, and that has two items in it as well. It's a horizontal group. So we're going to set them up now. Defining groups and things like that, everything has to have a little ID number, and you give it an ID number, and it's the same as most things in Blitz. In C you'd use pointers, but the Blitz libraries like to handle things with like nice friendly object numbers, and so it makes a lot of sense to use constants for these. You don't have to. You can use magic numbers if you want. It very, very quickly gets out of hand because you're going to be dealing with a lot of constants. So we'll start defining our stuff here. So we'll do so we'll do left button equals 1, and we just give them some IDs. Just once they're unique numbers, it doesn't really matter, okay? And then, so button group equals 3. And now we're going to do and it's our little text message in the middle of the window. We'll give it 4, and then we're going to give the overall group will be 5, and that's the vertical group that contains everything. Okay, and then we need a couple more objects that are to do with MUI itself, and so that we give the window. Well, we'll do, because we might add more stuff to it. We'll do this at let's say 20, and then the application ID. It also needs an application ID, and that's sort of an internal ID for how MUI works. Okay, so now we've defined them. Now this is all very boring, so because if you compile this, it still won't do anything. So we haven't got anything to show for it yet. Oh no, there we go. This happens when I'm mixing my keyboards. Control S is a template for making a statement in Blitz, and of course right Amiga S is for save. There you go. Right, so so we've got a group with 2 buttons in it, and we've got a main group which has the button group and the text in it, and we've got a window, and we've got the application. Okay, so now we can actually use commands to define our stuff. So the commands you can use are if you have Amiga Blitz 3, you can open the library browser. Where is it? Library browser. See, if you have a higher resolution, this is open at the bottom of the screen all the time, of course. But if you look at the it's called the EF MUI library. So sort by name, this one here. And here are all the commands that are available. See? And this is a very handy little browser thing. It's nice to have it open at the bottom. That's where I would normally have it underneath the source window. But you can open and close it here. So these are all the commands that the library currently supports. You can also do custom stuff as you would in C. It gets a lot more involved, and you'd want to be quite comfortable with your pointers and stuff to do that. But what was I looking for? Yeah. Let me see. MUI button, isn't it? MUI key button. Okay, so key button, MUI key button, and that it basically lets you have a shortcut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that open just for now. So I should point this out for anyone who isn't used to Blitz or Amiga Blitz as well. If you put the cursor over a keyword and you press help, the title will show you the syntax for that command, and it'll also show you which library it's in. Okay, so we're going to do MUI key button. So a key button also lets you define a hotkey for the button. I'm sure you can do just a button without it, but you might as well do this, and it lets you, the way you get little underlined letters that you can press. So MUI key button, and if you press help there, you can see there's an object number to give it, and a name, and the shortcut key. So object number is going to be, we're going to do our left button first, is left button, and then we give it a name, which is the text that goes in it, test1, and then the key to activate that will be 1, let's say. Okay, and now we will do the same for the next button. So it's a nice shortcut that I use a lot in Blitz, is to delete the line. If I want to copy a line, I'll just delete it with right Amiga D, and then undelete it with right Amiga U. Now, I can't remember whether that works in Blitz too, but it works very well in Amiga Blitz. And it's a nice quick shortcut rather than copying and pasting. Because it uses a separate buffer as well, so sometimes I have something on the clipboard and something in the undelete buffer, and I'll have them set up like that. So we're going to set this up for the right button, and that will have the shortcut key too. So there's our buttons defined. So so now we have to define the group that they go in, and that is I can't remember the command. MUI yes. So what you have to do is you have to add the objects to a group definition first, and then you create the group once you've added all the object definitions. So if you're familiar with C, what this is essentially doing is the same as creating a tag list with all the items in it, and then you create your object based on the tag list. So you just have to set up all the objects first, and that internally it does the same thing. It sets up a list of all the tags it needs. Okay, so these buttons are horizontal, so add objects H group, and we just do the name of the group. If we look at that, MUI object to MUI object, that's the group name or the group number, so it's so there we go. It's just we're defining the button group, which is with the ID button group, adding in the left button and the right button, and then we create the group. And that should be it for that group anyway. What we're doing there is, so like I said, we're setting up all the tags for that group, and then we are creating the horizontal group. See, create H group and add objects H group. They have to tally because we're creating a horizontal group. If you're creating a vertical group, we'll do that in a minute. It's a V group, same kind of thing. Okay, so now we create our main group, which is the one going down through the window, and that gives us that will contain a text message and the button group at the bottom. So we'll create our text. I can't remember what set vmax is. You know what? That's a different thing. It's MUI label or MUI label for doing a simple string. Well, and we lose that. Oh yeah. And It's probably the simplest for doing text. Actually, I can't remember what the story was with the text. Let's see. Another shortcut for Blitz and Ami Blitz is, as well as pressing help to get the brief context at the top of the window or top of the screen, if you press Shift Help, it'll open the guide on the help guide on the right page. So there you go. So it'll give you a little description. Okay. Okay, so Vmax, so you set it to 0. Text, I think that's a text box rather than just a string in the window. So we'll do the MUI label and see what it says about that. Yeah, and so here we have, some examples here, and we'll see here we have a constant. So MUI label centered. That's setting a property of the object. Okay, and that is kind of so the flags field there, and that's basically valued, but that's a constant that's defined in the MUI resident file, and it'll also, you'll find that corresponds with, if you have the MUI autodocs, so the developer's documentation for C, it will give you all these values. In Blitz, a constant has the hash symbol right at the start, whereas in C it doesn't, obviously. But you use hash define in C. But yeah, so it's similar, but a constant just has a hash symbol at the start, so you can use the same names as you do in C. You just add the hash symbol at the beginning. MUI labeled label centered. So this is going to be the text, and we're going to put that in. This is a message, and of course I need a bigger screen. I've gone for the small screen because if I go for a full-size screen, the text is going to be too small. Now, just a word of warning here as well. Generally, things are not case sensitive, and you'll see that that Blitz will automatically capitalize keywords, and it will do it, so you don't need to worry about capitalization there or case. But for constants, you do need the right case, and it is case sensitive. Okay. So that will center the label in the space that it's given, and MUI will give its space when it lays out the window. Okay. Okay, so that's that, and now what we need is and then that's it. So now we need to create a vertical group and add those objects to it. So we do the same thing again. But this time it's a V group for vertical group, and that is the main, and that mail group, the main group, and that contains text, and the other object it contains down below is the button group. Okay, so is this making sense? Does this, it's kind of a bit weird to do in text like that, but does it make sense as to how the window is laid out? Subgroups and all that kind of stuff. So, yep, you're happy with that. Excellent. Good stuff. Now, I'm going to save that there. Okay. Yeah, yeah, it's a definite advantage there. Yeah. So, and you know exactly what I mean then about the tag lists and stuff. Yeah, this is closer to how it will be done in let's say a modern language. If you had to code it by hand, it's more loose. You're more loosely defining things, and you let the OS decide how it's laid out, which is a nicer way of doing things when there are so many things that can change. Like especially when you know, different languages can be used, and the text in the gadgets might change. It'd be different sizes, and you know, people might have larger font set. It was like GAD tools is great for, you know, when you're running something that's just running off the ROM, and all you've got is Topaz, and you know, you don't really need to worry about a lot. Everyone's running a 320 or a 640 screen. You know, you kind of know what you're dealing with. It's yeah, it's a bit more modern in that way. It's a bit more flexible. So okay, now I have to try and remember here. Okay, a word about Blitz and the compiler settings and stuff. You see runtime error debugger here. The Blitz debugger is generally very good. It's quite a good debugger. It isn't the best with MUI because so much of what happens with MUI goes on in the MUI library and not in Blitz. That if you mess things up, Blitz says that looks okay to me. It passes these dodgy pointers onto MUI library, and then MUI library falls on its arse. So the runtime error debugger is only of limited value for doing MUI stuff or MUI stuff. Like, it will catch a lot more for GAD tools because GAD tools is a lot more under its control. But I'm not saying don't switch it on. Still do switch it on because it's still very good and it will catch other silly things. But just make sure it's there. In Blitz 2 it'll look something similar to that. But in Amiga Blitz 3 you've also got I'm pointing at my screen here so you can see. You've also got create debug code, and that's a shortcut for turning on and off the debugger. So you know you would tend to leave that on until you're making your executable. When you're making your executable, turn it off because it just makes the executable bigger and doesn't have any effect. Say that it does have an effect. It causes dodginess on it. I think it causes enforcer hits. There's something. It doesn't really have an immediate effect, but yeah, just switch it off when you're making your executables. Okay, so now we've created our groups. All we need to do now is create our window. Now let me just have a look at. Okay, so yeah, I am going through my own notes here because I'm a little bit rusty, so go easy on me. So what we have now is we have to create the window. So we've created all our objects up as far as the window. Now we just want to create the window, and that is very similar to creating a group. But we create window. Oh, we did give it an ID. Main window, and then we give that a name. So this is that'll appear in the title bar. We also give this an internal MUI ID. So I usually just give the main window main, and then what we do is we give it our object group. So, and that's our window defined. And so now we have to, what we do now is that's our window definition complete. Now we have to add the window to our application. So you'll notice a lot of these things come in pairs. You make your definition, and then you actually you act on the definition. So we've made our definition of the window, and now even though it's the main window, we're saying add sub window. So we're adding our main window to the program. Okay. And now we create the application object. And that is that will look like let me see, our application it's MUI create application, but I think it's a function. So function as in it returns a value. Yeah. So yeah, so basically this is our chance to quit gracefully. It's not a sub window in context of the main screen. It's a sub window in context of the MUI application, which is the overarching object, if you like. So the application is kind of the key to everything and contains all the subclasses. So yeah, so yeah, you have to think of it as a sub-object of the application, because the application can have more than just windows. It can have ports, it can have events, it can have, you know, other things that are kind of not as tangible as a window, if you like. So, but yeah, it's all windows are sub windows. Basically, you just have to. I don't know why it's not called just add window. I didn't write it. So MUI create application. So what we'll have to do is we have to check this for failure. So we'll do create application. And we quit gracefully there, and that's so you can do that. You can do it in the nested style as well, but you end up with a massive nest of massiveness. So I tend to, for these early setup things, I tend to just get that out of the way and have it in its own separate little if then. And now we do another one. So now it is time to actually open the window. Okay, so our application is fully created now. All we need to do is open the window, and if you don't, your application still runs, but it does nothing. It just sits there twiddling its thumbs. So we're going to do it again. And this is, so this is our, so we tell it to open the main window object. And we'll do the same stuff as here. Opening. And again, just quick gracefully, because you can't really do anything if that window won't open. So there we go. So now we are in our main. We should have a window. I'm going to try and run that now just to see if we do get a window. It should just open and then immediately close, because we're at the end of our program here. Like a lot of basic stuff, always have an end on it, because that does the garbage collection and, you know, frees up all the memory and stuff like that. So it's best to do it that way. Let me see if this works. So to compile, just compile and run. And we probably did get a window there. It was very quick, but it's quit now. And don't panic if it looks like Blitz has crashed or something like that. It's probably because it's waiting on you to press enter here. Blitz 2 doesn't do that. It will dump you straight back to the editor, but Amiga Blitz 3 lets you do that, basically so you can see any output, and then you press enter and then you get back control. So don't, because Blitz will let you panic and it'll ditch all the memory and stuff like that by quitting the program, but it often leaves you in it with an unstable machine, or at the very best you've just lost that memory until you reboot. So it will give you the option to panic if control hasn't returned to the editor, but it's better off not doing that. I'm going to run that again just to see if it, yeah, it's just too quick, we can't see it. Okay, excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it's a nasty command to use because it busy loops, but it'll wait until we click the mouse. Okay, now we can see our window. It works. This stuff up here is the Blitz debugger. It's quite cool. It's a little bit clunky, to be fair, but it is quite powerful. As I've seen worse. I've definitely seen worse. But here we go. Here we have our application. It's opened a window. I'm telling you, I'm going to win the most useless prize. I have to win the most useless prize. Ship it. Absolutely. So now as soon as I click the mouse, it will quit. But yeah, like I said, that mouse wait command busy loops, and I only ever use it for debugging, if at all. especially on like it's an emulator there, you got loads of horsepower, everything still stays moving. But if you're on if you're on real hardware, that busy looping means even the mouse pointer will start to chug and stuff like that. It'll get, yeah, so there are neater ways of doing things, but I just use that sometimes for debugging. Okay, so we have our window. Now, the next thing we need to do is to sort out the events. And the events are handled pretty much in the same way as Intuition handles them. Basically, you loop around, you wait for an event to arrive at your program, you and then you either if then it, or you do a select case, which is the same as a switch in C, and then you choose what to do based on the event that gets there. But what you need to do first is you need to define your events. Okay, so there's a special event which is the so we need to add more definitions up here, more constants. So I like to give them, the events are kind of like they don't have to be unique. They're not like this. They're not the same as the objects. Hey, Psychosis, how are you? Welcome along. Welcome in. Hope you're having a nice time. We're doing a bit of system-friendly programming for a change, and this is making a little MUI interface for a program. So what we need to do is we need to add some definitions for the events, and yeah, they don't have to be, they have to be unique from each other, but they don't have to be the same. They're considered independent of the objects. So what I tend to do is I tend to set them up using the same absolutely using the same like basically using prepending some characters to it. That came out terribly. I'll show you what I'm doing, right? I do ev underscore so ev close. Okay, so the close event. Now this is a special one, and this is always -1, and that's an internal value. So you kind of have to set that as -1. All the other ones you can define whatever way you want, but if the event code -1 means the user is quitting the program or closing the window. Okay, so that's that, and now we'll do a button 1 event equals 1 equals 2. And if you've got a bit of OCD about you, you can line them up there. Well, that's never going to work, is it? Anyways, look, it's fine. Okay, well, I'll have the start of the video up because I've done a lot of explaining along the way on how to do stuff. So this might seem a bit full on if you've missed the first hour or so. But yeah, there you go. Okay, so here we have some events defined, event constants, and the thing is, if you have, you assign basically an event to. Basically, you assign an event to a notify, and so you can use the same code for multiple things. So if you have a quit button, you can give it the -1 number. You can just say ev close as well, and then it means you react to multiple things if they're the same thing. If that makes sense. So, so you can do the same action with a couple of different gadgets or a couple of different menus, that kind of thing. Okay, but basically we've got 3 actions that our program's going to do. It's going to quit, or it's going to do something with button 1 and something with button 2. Simple. Now, how we define those, I like to do this. After I've defined the application, I think you need to do it after the application has been defined. So you would do it in here. So you set up a notify to the app, and it is that's the command there for defining that. So we go to our MUI object, which is the main window, and then this is another one of the constants So basically what we're doing is we're saying we want to be notified when the main window gives us this constant, this value. Okay, and that value is a standard MUI constant, which will be the same in C and stuff like that. So it's a oh no, it's not. So it's close request. So what we've done here is, if we go back and we can look at this, so we've said that we want to be notified when the main window gives us this tag, and whenever the tag close request, MUIA is a MUI attribute, and whenever that is 1. So whenever MUI says, okay, someone has pressed has given a close request, I want to hear about that, and then we assign the event EV close to that. Okay, does that make sense? So whenever the main window gives this whenever the main window gives this tag as 1, we will get an event with the number EV close, and that will be -1. Okay, and then we do the same thing for the 2 buttons. Well, for 1 button, but it's not close request, because a button won't give a close request. The button will give a pressed attribute, and that will be actually 0, because what we want to do is we want it when the user lets go of the button. So when they click the button, it will turn to 1, and we get a notification that says MUIA pressed is 1, and then when they let go of the button, we get a notification saying MUIA pressed has changed to 0. So it starts as 0, but we don't worry about that. You don't get notified of that. Okay, and then we're going to give the EV button 1. And then we delete that and make it button 2. Okay, does that make sense to people? It should hopefully make a bit of sense. So there are 3 events, and we've defined them there. So basically that's it. What I might do is basically the MUI autodocs. The autodocs are kind of like the programming reference documents for for a lot of the different OS libraries, and MUI has its own. Let's see if I can find it. So there's the okay, here we go. So I'm going to throw this in the chat. So the autodocs are there, the old autodocs. You can download the autodocs from Aminet, or from if it's a later version of MUI, they're on GitHub, I think, somewhere. I'm sure you can find them quite easily. But basically this shows you the list of objects. And so you can go down through them, and you can find all the properties and all the constants that you can use. So what I'm going to do is, just for example, I'm going to, now it's a little bit complicated because I'm talking about gadgets as in the buttons that you press. MUI doesn't really use buttons as such. You define an area that acts like a button. And so you have to go into the area definitions, and that will give you that'll give you the different properties that you can set. So this link here shows you the area properties and the attributes. So you can see in the attributes area there, in the attributes list, you've got pressed is down there, and if you click on that, it shows you that the values it can give are well, yeah, you just it's a little bit complicated because it does it based on the area, and there's a lot of other stuff you have to define to make it into a button that you don't need to worry about here. But so you can set it to like give you an immediate reaction or to not, and but basically the default settings or the default attributes that it's set up with in Blitz are fine for what we need. Okay, so basically what you need to worry about is that pressed becomes 0. That's what we want, and that's assigned to these events. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is look at our events, and we just need to loop around and just wait for an event to arrive. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a main loop, and it's pretty standard stuff. A repeat until loop, and then what we'll do is we'll close the main window. I don't think you strictly have to do this. In fact, you don't, because we've already proven that. We can just quit, but it's nice to just close things. Oh, no, we don't put it there. Sorry. Ha. Yeah, so yes, our main loop should go here. So we vote after we open the window. Yeah. Excellent. Nice race condition there. Okay. So what we need to do is we're going to repeat until quit here. Quit is just a variable. I'm going to define that here. So we set it up there. False internally is 0. Doesn't make a difference. You can say 0 if you want. And we repeat until quit is true. So when we want to quit the program, we'll say quit is true. And we close the window, and then we end, and that's it. That's our program finished. So repeat and indent your code. And first thing we do is check for an event, and this is almost the same as doing intuition events in Blitz, if you've ever seen them. But MUI wait event. Okay, and what that does is that puts your program to sleep until an event arrives. That's a very nice what's it called, multitasking friendly thing to do. So yeah, so it's yeah, basically your program's suspended. The window will still move and stuff like that. It's not like it's crashed or anything like that, but it just sleeps until it needs to react to something. And so that's good for multitasking, because it only ever runs when it needs to. If you get rid of the wait there, it won't wait. It will just check for an event, and it will return 0 and carry on in the program. And that's useful if your program does other things, like if it's a music player or something like that, and it's doing something in behind. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's basically it's like waiting on an interrupt. Yeah, exactly. So if you leave out the word wait, it will loop around, and it'll busy loop. So you want to be doing something else in that loop to free up a bit of CPU time, or it'll use up all the CPU time. So for now we're going to do a wait event. But yeah, if your program's doing something else, like playing music or doing some sort of processing in the background, you use MUI event, and you'll do something else in the loop to free up a little bit of CPU time, or not. It's your program, but it's usually kind of polite to at least give a little bit of time, or you'll end up hogging all the CPU time. It'll make things a bit clunky when you run it. Okay. ev.l equals MUI wait event. So I'm defining variables here in Blitz. This is how you kind of tell it what it is. So b is a byte. There's no boolean in Blitz, so the smallest variable type is a byte. And that's a long. So the event codes, event numbers are longs, and they're returned as a long. You probably find that the full page says this. Yeah, ev.l. So it tells you what kind of variable you need to put it in. Okay. And now, so basically the program will go sleep until we get an event. And now once we get an event, we can do... well, what we'll do is we'll give a little bit of output. And so just whenever there's an event, we'll see it in our console window. Now this obviously won't work if you compile it and you run it from Workbench. You have to define a console output for that. But just for the debugging, we have a console window open. We can use that. And now what we can do is we do our in C it'll be a switch, so it's a select and then end select. And in here we do case, and for each event we give it a little entry like that. Unlike C, you don't need to break in between them. So hey Judge Grooveman, how are you? Welcome along. How are you getting on? Okay, so there's our 3 events. And like I said, we don't need to use a break like you do in C. So all we do here is just stick in the code we want. And we make quit. We can spell true. Oh, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Our buttons, this is where we kind of, you're only limited by your imagination and, well, what you can get the Amiga to do. But we'll just print we'll just do something like that and something like that for button 2. Okay, does this all make sense? So what we're doing is the select and end select takes a variable and it oh yeah, select EV takes a variable, and depending on what happens in there, you can't. No, and indeed it's a nice byproduct of how C works, is that you can have 2 cases that fire off the same code. Now what you can do, I'll experiment in a minute, but I think you can do something like, I think you can do that. There is a default as well, yeah. What I'll do, I'll throw a default in here. Look. Now, for those of you who are new to Blitz and have seen other basics, the reason there's nprint there, nprint adds a new line. Print without n doesn't add a new line. So usually you use nprint. Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah, so there's the default. But I think you can do an OR with a pipe there. I can't remember, but if not, it's kind of yeah, you kind of just, you'd be better off doing a go sub or something like that, or using a function to run the same code off multiple cases. But yeah, so anyway, I think that should be our program, if I haven't forgotten anything. Will we give it a run? Let's give it a run. Nope, constant not found. MUI close request. Is that right? Now, one of the other good things in here is our constants browser, and let's see, I should be able to, when we've had a successful compile, this lets you browse the constants, but because the compile didn't work once, we can't. Close request. UV close. Is that right? Let me just check the autodocs. Where's window? Window. Ah, yes, sorry. It is actually the attribute we're looking for is specific to the window. So so the window, it's a window close request. Yeah, so that's the constant we're looking for. Now, let's give that a run. Hey! So there's our program, and now it is alive and kicking, maybe. Where's our... Oh, we're getting loads of events, unknown events here. Okay, so Slightly awkward that they're on 2 different screens, but anyways, let me see if I can fix that. Anyway, if we press that, we're getting ticks. We're getting tick events. Okay, so tick events are kind of a not an everything's okay alarm, but they're used a lot in GUI things, and it's part of the OS itself. Label centered isn't also not found. That's interesting. Yeah, just check the auto docs because it'll match the C definition exactly, or almost exactly. Oh, if is Blitz giving you that label not found? If Blitz is giving it, then it's not coming from MUI 5 or MUI 5. It's not. That's not where the error is coming from. If Blitz is telling you that it's undefined, then that's then it doesn't, that constant doesn't exist. You can manually define it from the includes, from the MUI 5 includes if you want, but okay, let me just change something here. ID preferences. Where is console window and workbench? There we go. So now when we run it, we should get it. There we go. Yeah. So now we can actually see our output reacting. Button 1 pressed, button 2 pressed, and when we quit, we get our quitting. Okay, so that seems to be working, but we've got these tick events that kind of come in, and sometimes you have to kind of sign up for them, but I think MUI automatically does, and they're for kind of updating things like gauges and stuff. So it gives you kind of a low pressure heartbeat count almost, like, so you can keep your interface updated. So what we'll do is what I will do is, if so, and it's giving zeros, yeah, so if EV and if, so we'll just put the whole lot in, so basically once it's a non-zero value. And another nice little shortcut, you can highlight a block and control right just to indent it in or out. I like it. Okay, let's compile that. And there we go. So that is oh, we're still getting our event 0. What have I done here? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Let's put that in here instead. Okay, so now that should be it. So now it should be nice and tidy, and now we're not getting any output. Okay, excellent, cool, great. So button 1. So we get our event code and then our little message, and we can also see we can resize our thing. So you see, MUI just decided that that's it. Oh, and also because you can see the underline under the 1 and 2, when you press the buttons, it will do them for you. So you don't have to deal with any of the handling keyboard input and stuff like that. So that's all taken care of by the button object. Okay, so that is it. I think it will give us an automatic commodity stream test. There we go. So it automatically makes a commodity. The MUI library does that, and you can remove it that way, and it also quits it, which is quite handy. Now it doesn't handle the actual commodity stuff. But you can do that separately. The commodity events, you can do that separately and deal with them yourself. But yeah, there you go. So that's part of the reason why you define the quit as -1, because it also feeds, because it sort of injects that directly into the event stream. Yeah, okay. So that is a very, very basic thing. So you'll have noticed, I'll run that again. Oh, what have I done here? Oh, there we go. Okay. So we don't need that anymore. You'll have noticed that I can resize it horizontally and not vertically. So I can't make it any taller. That's a slight problem, because, well, no, it's not a slight problem, but there is a reason for that. Now, buttons like this and like that are allowed to expand width-wise, but not height-wise. So their height is defined by the text that they contain. So if they had 2 lines of text, they'd be bigger, but they are whatever size they need to be to fit whatever text you want in there. Okay, and the same with the message. So the message and these can be basically any width so long as they fit. So you can see you can't make it smaller than the width of the message or the width of those buttons. So you can't make it too small, and you can make it as wide as the screen because they're allowed to stretch. A text area like that is allowed to stretch. Now, to make it that you can change the vertical height as well, MUI has what are basically blank. Yeah, basically they're just blanks. So we'll add a couple of blanks. We'll add one above the text and one below the text to let it all stretch vertically. Okay, so we'll define a couple of we will define, let me find our thing now. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. So what we'll do is we'll define an extra couple of objects. So these are our, so comments and blitz are semicolon. Okay, and so what we'll do is we'll these objects are V spaces. So you have to define whether they're vertical or horizontal. So spacer object. Just for neatness, I was going to put that up here. So. Okay, so now we've got 2 new objects defined. They're vertical space 1 and vertical space 2, and they go into the vertical group. So before we create our V group, we'll add MUI V space, and we will do V space 1. And I don't know what the second parameter is for. Let me see. That's no help. Simple vertical space of specified size. Oh, okay, right. But it's an adjustable size. So what I would tend to do is just leave that as 0. Yeah, I usually for a lot of these things I just throw in a 0. But yeah, that'll let you set out space. So let's experiment here. Let's do it 20, and we'll do another one of them for V space 2. And then what we'll do, we'll add one of them on each side of the text. So, and okay, and that's a constant. So there we go. So this is another reason to like Amiga Blitz 3 is that the syntax highlighting is quite nice. It's it's not perfect, as you can see. It's kind of disappeared there from the those, but it's nice to have the just a little bit of color in there to help. It just makes it easy to see the different things you're working with. And what I do like especially about that is if you do anything that's hardware specific, so it's not going to run in a system friendly way, you get it gives it to you in red. So oh, no, poke is actually a system thing. System thing. I can't think of a system unfriendly command now. Yeah, there you go. So see that's highlighted in purple there. So if you use sound commands, that accesses the hardware directly. So just it's a nice little touch that you get in Amiga Blitz 3. Okay. So we've added our spaces, one on each side of the little text object in the middle of the window. Let's see if that works. I'll save it again just for good measure. Hey, there we go. 20 pixels each side. But we should also be able to... Oh no, it's... that's what it is. It's a fixed size of 20 pixels each side. Okay, that's why I normally set it to 0. So if we set those sizes to 0 pixels, I am going to guess that it lets it expand. Hey! Excellent, Prince Phase. Thank you very much for the raid. Welcome along, guys. Welcome along, everyone. I hope you had a nice stream. Were you coding as well? Hey, Proton Fig, how are you? Were you doing some coding as well? I presume you were. But yeah, welcome in. We're doing probably some beginner stuff. I think you guys tend to do a bit more serious stuff. But this is some Blitz Basic, and we're coding a simple GUI in with MUI or MUI, depending on your preference. And hey, Night Shift, how are you? Welcome in, everyone. Thanks for coming along. But yeah, so we've basically got our first little window defined, and we've got it doing a couple of little things. So now we should have a window that can also stretch vertically. So let's just give this a go. You're just in time to see this crash and burn. Hey, there we go. Now look, see, there we go. Everything is all proportional and balanced because these two spacer objects are allowed to expand, and they're both identical objects, so they both expand at the same rate, like the buttons down at the bottom. So everything's all nice and proportion, and that's all taken care of for you. So you can define it any way you want. And as a user, you can snapshot it then, and then the next time you run it, it will remember that setting. And welcome in, SP. 2010-ish, that's still relatively recently in Amiga terms, you know. But yeah, there you go. It is so now see, we can, if we run it again, you can see it's after remembering it, because Blitz or MUI takes care of all the sizing, all the user preferences, all that stuff is done in the background, and you don't have to worry about that in your program at all. So yeah, so there you go. So there's our very simple application. What else will we be doing? We'll add a little string gadget anyway. Okay. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll add a little string so you can put in a value, and oh, thanks very much. We'll add a little string value, so you can see here's the code. It is fairly easy to read. Well, I think it's fairly easy to read, but there's nothing particularly crazy in it. It's 100 lines of code, less than 100 lines of code, and it's opened a window that can do it. That is all nice and fancy, and it responds, and it does things, and it can close, and it even shows up as a commodity down the bottom here. Stream test. There's a question mark there because we haven't defined it. Yeah, so there you go. Now, question. You still have to add things to deflibs. Yeah, Amiga Blitz 3, if you're using some of the extra stuff, you do indeed. So what I have in Amiga Blitz 3 is I have all.res, and that contains basically, it does what it says in the tin. It contains all of the defines for the OS, for MUI, and for a couple of the big libraries. Like I think some of the soundtracker libraries and stuff like that. It contains all the defines that you need, and it's relatively up to date as well. Like it definitely contains all the OS 3.9 includes and values, and I think it's been updated recently to include the 3.2 ones as well. But yeah, so all.res, that's all it needs, and because that includes all of the stuff, including MUI and stuff, once you add that, you don't really need to worry about it. Okay, so yeah, so what we'll do is we'll add ourselves a little text box in there that we can type into. Don't know what we'll do with it, but open to suggestions. Oh yeah, sorry. In there, Ozzy Boshi, thank you for the follow. Thank you very much, and welcome in. Fryer85 was asking, can you put bitmaps in Windows? You can indeed. You can indeed. They basically there's a I'll find the autodoc for it and I'll post the link. But basically there is an object that just lets you put a so what I believe it is. Remember I was saying that these gadgets are actually areas that are just defined to act like buttons. So you can define a button. You can define an area to contain an image, and that is it. That's relatively simple. I will have to. I don't have it. So there is. Let me see. Let me just post that. So that's the autodoc from what's that? Okay, that's a different conversation. Yeah, so basically that's the autodoc there, that link for the image class, but the image class is a subclass of the area class, which means that an area can contain an image. And so you define an area to be a button or an image or a blank space or a text box or whatever. You know, that's how it works. So you basically what you need to do is you need to define the attributes that give it the image. So you need to load the image. That needs to be, and then you define the then basically you define the area attributes to contain the pointer to that image struct. So that's how it works. I will. Oh, SP, thank you very much for the follow. I will. Yeah, I will have to dig out an example for that. It's the kind of thing that'll go wrong very, very quickly because you start to deal with pointers, and pointers mean crashes. And so far we're doing well. Our crash count is 0. So maybe towards the end we can have a look at that. But what I'll do is I'll go simpler now. First off, and we'll add a text box. Hey, a group of Italians. Hey, this is a friend of mine who hasn't a notion what's going on here, but he loves to come on in and support. Thanks very much and welcome along. He's a colleague of mine from my day job, from my real job. But yeah, good stuff. So we're not making a game this time. I know the last time you were in, I think we were making a game about drunk Glaswegians. Yeah. Well, I pretend to work, they pretend to pay me. Isn't that it? Anyways, yes. So we're going to put a little text box in this window that we've created, and we'll define it. We'll call it a string box 8. Give it there, and let me see, what will I call that? So yeah, okay, so we created, there's our text here. So what we'll do is we'll put it underneath the text. The order here doesn't really matter. You can create in whatever order you want. The order that they appear is defined by the add objects line here. So we'll add a MUI string, and that, when we see with their little help thing there, so the object number we've just defined as a string box. And what was next? Contents and max len. So contents is the default. So you would normally give that like an empty string to start with if it's blank. So we'll just give it a string to start with, and you define as the maximum length, let's say 50 characters. And we'll add that below the text. So we'll put it in here. Yes, sorry, yeah, I will. The stream will be available as on the Twitch VOD. I'll add it to the YouTube channel. Let me see what does this work? So my streams are usually there, or well, the ones I've had so far are there. So I'll add it to that. There are other. So far, all my Blitz tutorials have been on, or most of them been on games. and graphics and stuff like that. So they're all there as well if you want to look back at them. I'll upload to this probably in the next day or two. Yep, no worries. Okay, so we're going to change our message to an actual label that might make sense. Please enter text. And let's see, and we've added that to our group. Text is straight above the string box. And now let's see what this looks like. There we go. Very simple, and again, that will resize automatically because, you know, MUI takes care of all that, and it remembered its size from the last time. And we can change that. And that's it. So, that's all fine. It doesn't actually do anything because we haven't done anything with that. So what we're going to do, actually, so what we'll do is we'll get the text from that string. So that involves basically reading attributes. And sorry, I keep on looking over here, thinking the camera's over there. It's over there. So you need to read the attributes. So all the MUI objects, and we've had attributes already, like the MUI A is an attribute. So this constant defines the attribute you want to look at or you want to read, and then this is the value that we're comparing, for example, in the notifications. But to read the text, yeah, you probably missed an awful lot of key stuff if you've never coded in MUI before. So yes. Oh, beer sounds nice. Anyways, pause that thought. No, I'm being sensible. Indeed. It's a different kind of party. So, yeah. Okay, so the attributes, you can read and write attributes. So all the objects have various attributes, and you can read values from them, and you can write values to them. Okay. It's all going downhill. Okay, so what you can do is, like, the text that a string gadget like that contains is an attribute. So you can define that using the attribute. You can read it using the attribute. Now I think Blitz actually does give you commands for doing it, so you don't even have to worry about that stuff. But so let's have a look. Button 1 press. So when we press button 1, we're going to read the string. Let's say. Okay, so yeah, so you know what we'll do? We'll do instead of the buttons, we're going to, left button is so get text and reset text. Okay, so now they actually do something sensible. Okay, so for this one, we'll do we'll add a thing. So let's see and strings in BASIC, if you're coming from C or anything like that, they end in a $sign. Good old fashioned. You can do it in a slightly more modern way with a .s as well. But I like the old 8-bit way. Our text string equals, and it's MUI get string, I think. No, it's not. Where's my library browser? MUI get. Oh, why is this not working? That's weird. Try that again. So sort by line, it's fmulib. Okay. There we go, now it's working. MUI get. Oh, get string. String, of course, because it's a string. MUI get. Where was I now? MUI get string. Okay, yes, string functions tend to. Oh. Say she was rough. Okay. So now this basically this is a function. So we need it returns a value. So that means the parameters go in brackets. It's another slight change from C. Is usually a statement doesn't return a value and doesn't require brackets around the arguments, whereas a function does. It does return a value and it does need brackets or parentheses. Okay, so so MUI get strings, and then we want to get the string from Rage T. Thank you very much for the follow. Welcome in. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. Now, and so string box is the ID of the string box, and then we'll do is we'll imprint our text string. So when we press button 1, that should give us whatever's in the box. Button 2 is reset, so we'll do MUI set string. Oh yeah, and that because that's a command and it doesn't return a value. It doesn't have to match the type of the variable you're putting it in. So you'll see as well, if you're coming from C, that Blitz will treat strings as primitives, like a variable. You can just assign them like that. It just works. It's great. There are limitations to it, but it works well like that. Okay, so set string, and then that we need to tell it the object, and we tell it the string. So, and the string is, what did we say? Delete this. Okay, so now our buttons should do something. Let's give it a go. Delete this. So let's get our debug output there. So we click get text, and there we have our text. So now we're able to read our text, and we press reset. Goes back to delete this. It's all working. It's amazing. Look at that. I deserve that beer. You know what? Bear with me 2 seconds. I'm going to get that beer. Now, I have one beer in the fridge, and it's left over from something else. Orange is the new ale. We'll give it a go. Okay, what did I miss? What did I miss? Oh, Jesus, that's very orangey. Okay. I don't know, it's all bedtime and we're not. Yeah, it is almost bedtime, to be fair. Let me see. I've only ever used the GT commands. Does MUI stuff offer a nice way to group up areas? Yes, absolutely. Amiga Bill's illegitimate son. Yes, it does. It's or Graham, off you go. Good night. And yeah, thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. Within OS lookalike on OS 3. Well, this is OS 3 that I'm on. So it's so it's 3.9, but I have the I have the gadgets modified with visual prefs, but other than that, it's basically, you know, fairly similar. So this is just the settings that I have on my MUI. You can customize it. You know, so you can change the buttons to have a different look and all that kind of stuff. This is the unregistered version, so I can't. But yeah, that's it. But yeah, so you can change the look of it. That's, you know, that's just the standard stuff for it, and it does. Yeah, MUI itself needs to be installed. That is it. Okay, so now there's a few questions there. Let me go back up here. So yes, there is a structure to it. It's quite a neat structure, and I'll just go through quickly in the code here. So I have my very impressive diagram here. So you can see there. So we've got everything is done in groups. We've got one group here, which is 2 buttons. Oh, that's awkward on the camera. So test 1, test 2. So those 2 buttons there, that's a horizontal group, and a vertical group is this overall box here is the window, and that's a vertical group. So I've got a spacer at the top, then some text, then another spacer, and then this group is one object in that group. You see, so there's a hierarchy of groups there. Okay, I'm gonna have some snacks. So that's basically where we are now. The MUI auto docs you can download from AmiNet. I'll throw them in the chat here as well. But these are the general auto docs for basically aimed at programming in C. They're not for Blitz. But actually, hold on. I do have some Blitz information on my on Blitz Wiki that I had set up a while ago, which is basically, and it's basically that kind of quite close to that I've been working on so far. So here we go. Here's some good tutorial stuff there, and it will look very similar to yeah. And this will look very similar to what we've just done today. Okay. Yeah, it's basically stuck in time, that website, isn't it? Okay. But yeah, if we go through the code here, let's have a look. So at the top, we are, first off, what we do is we define each object with a unique ID number. Everything has to belong to a group, so we give, and groups are objects, so we give them. So we've got the 2 buttons, and then a button group is 3, and then we've got a few other objects here, and then a vertical, a main group there. So they all fit into that. Is it one of these things where, you know, you have to press enter after you type it in or something like that, that it or else it doesn't record? I don't know. It's I don't know. It usually just works. Okay. But yeah, that could possibly be a bug in the thing, or it might just be a case that I don't think I had to press enter, did I? Yeah, well, it saved it there without pressing enter, so I don't know. Anyways. Yeah, I kind of gave it a temporary home, which has become its permanent home now, I think, because there was an Amiga coding wiki, and it was basically got abandoned, and then the page closed down, and I couldn't get in touch with the guy who owned it. So it's not complete, but I've reinstated basically all the stuff that I put into it anyway. So, and that's there. That's that link there. Actually, that reminds me, Zuperdan has a domain name that we were going to point at it. I don't know if you're still on the stream, Zuperdan, but we can talk about that offline, as they say. If you want, we can point that at the wiki, or move it to somewhere more permanent and stuff. Because I completely forgot about that until now. But anyways, what was I going to do? I think we're okay. We're acting on events and stuff. Oh, let's see. Does that work? All right. Okay. So yeah. So we need to sort out pointing at the domain. Okay, we can sort that out. No problem. Right. Well, I think I have most of the stuff that was on it. From archive.org, pretty much. Be no harm just to see if there's anything that I'm missing. Anyways, what was I going to do? Because I think we're kind of yeah, there's some basic stuff there. Setting Oh yeah, okay. Well, we can. Yeah, I'll talk to you about it on Discord, Dan, because yeah, we can set that up. But okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you a bit like attributes and you know, and that kind of thing. So if we look at, I have to try and think of something like the text. What can we do with the text? Okay, so you see that we had the text up here, and we gave it a please enter text, and we gave it an attribute flag of O-label centered. If we go to the auto docs, I'm just going to see if I can find it here. Text. I can't remember where this was. Okay, let's do something simpler. Okay, so okay, so there's a good one is the weight. So the weight of an object is basically how it stretches. Okay, so basically when MUI is deciding how much space to give an object, it basically if a group contains 3 objects, it will try to split it evenly between the 3 and so on. So you can see that when we open our little window, the 2 buttons are evenly spaced and these 2 blank spaces are even. So what we can do is we can change the weights, and that's just I'll just show you that as an example of setting attributes. So what you have to do is you have to set the attributes before the creation of the object, which kind of makes sense if it's something like this. You can change things afterwards, but it can sometimes mess things up, and you know sometimes people don't want the interface actually moving and changing while they're trying to use it, you know, unless that's what you want. But yeah, so what we'll do is we've got our 2 buttons here. So let me see, what is it? It's MUI set, maybe that's the one. Okay, let's oh sorry, I should have said this as well. So when you go to when you do the shift and help, it gives you the help page for that, and the contents will give you the contents of the library. So let me see, because so there are two different ways you can set the attributes of an object before creation, and you can set them and you can modify them afterwards, and it's two different commands. And I can't remember. MUI add tags. Okay. Yeah, so MUI add tags is before you set up an object, and set and get are used afterwards. MUI add tags. Okay. So we'll do this as so you can do this either with a pointer to a tag list, which is the C way of doing it, or you can do it in separate parameters. So what we're going to do is, and we're going to set the attribute. So I've just got this from the area class autodoc, and it's hey Vern, what are you doing up so late? Jesus. I'm impressed. Or so early. Hey, Vector Funk. Aha, I see. Yes. Okay, so yeah, so early. Excellent. Good work. Well, beer and stream for me. But I do have to finish up soon, I think. So what I'll do is I'll show you. You'll have to do all the catching up and stuff later on, but I'll show you some, how you can change the attributes of an object. So what we're doing is we're going to change the weight, and so this is from the autodocs, the MUI attribute weight, and the weight gives us a sort of you can control the proportions of objects. So basically the proportion. So we're going to set the weight of this object to, let's say, 50, because I think 100 is normal. So 50, we're going to make it half the size. So if we run that, we should get, see, this button now is far less than this one. So they still stretch, but you'll notice that the proportions are changed. So this is 100, so that one should be twice as big as that one. And that's just how how you use attributes. You can get attributes in a similar way. So some of the attributes have a kind of a built-in function, like MUI get strings there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to comment that out, and we're going to do it the manual way, just to show you how to read an attribute. So we, instead of MUI get strings, get string, we're going to do MUI get, and that will give us a number. See, so it's not a nice neat string. So what we need to do is let me think. Yeah, well, nlist is actually supported by Blitz directly. So there is a whole set of commands for using nlist. So there's a whole section in the developer docs. There you go. And better string and things like that. So there's a few nlist get entries, get active, set active. So there's some good support there. But it does support custom classes, and then there's a MUI do method, a MUI get, MUI set are standard, kind of across the board for attributes, and there's a custom class. So you open it like a library basically, and then you're kind of on your own. Crashes and all, that's all. You have to be careful with that, because everything has to be done through the pointers the same way as C. what's the difference between those versions of commands? You mean the version 2 commands that you see there in the help section? They are just added in version 2 of this library. So it's just that normally you have the second version of the library. But yeah, so basically they were added in version 2 of this library, but version 2 of the library was released in, let's say, 1998 or something like that. So if you have this library, you're very unlikely to have anything earlier. Okay, so let's just do this the manual way. So we will hold our result is going to be long, and it's going to be a pointer to the string. So MUI get. So, and it's going to be and the attribute is, and the attributes are, so you have to give a value that corresponds, or okay, sorry, yeah, so you have to give it a thing, an attribute thing. Let me just find this in the auto docs. String gadget. Oh yeah, MUI string gadget, string contents. So this will basically give us a pointer to the string that's in there, and then we can just use peaks to get there. Now this is where we start getting crash happy. Let's see if it works. Delete this. So, well, no, not that one. That one. Yeah, there you go. It's working. So yeah, so that's the difference. That's how you would read an attribute. So you can read kind of any of the properties that are listed in the auto docs. Hey, thanks very much. Oh, look at that, another subscription. Thank you, really appreciate that. Cheers. Okay. So there we go. There's attributes. You've got let me think. So if you look through the documentation for any of these properties of any of these classes, you'll see that there are an awful lot of attributes that can be set, like right down to changing the color of the text, changing the text formatting and stuff like that. There are loads of different things you can change, and there's a huge amount of it really is a very flexible thing, and you can change as much as you want. So it's like you don't have to you can see there, but I've set very little, and everything's the default size and the default shape and stuff like that. But yeah, you can do an awful lot of stuff there, and it all works quite well. Well, until it crashes then, and then when it crashes badly. But yeah, so I think I have to kind of finish up now. I'll probably do a bit more on another stream, maybe next week or maybe later on this week. We'll see how timing goes. But this beer's growing on me. Was there anything else? But I'm quite surprised that my crash count is still 0. But is there anything else that anything quick you wanted me to try on this before I go? Oh, Ian did mention images. I might leave that for another one, because I'll have to have an image ready and stuff like that, and just I don't know where to find one. But yeah, if there's anything quick to go in here, let me see what I'm just trying to think. Do absolutely, yeah. Make a note of your questions and send them in on a postcard. Yes, there is no undo. You can undo it if you delete a full line, but no, yeah, it's one of the one of the things that I don't like about it. It's generally it's quite good. Oh yeah, yes, I will be there. Yeah, exactly. And especially I, on the whole, on all my machines, like a fast repeat rate. So so I have quite a fast repeat rate, and I always have done on my Amigas. And so, if you're pressing delete just a little bit too much, you can delete half of the next line, and you're like, oh, balls. Yeah. So yeah, in Amiga terms, the modern IDE. In real world terms, still 20, 30 years old. Excuse me, but it's a nice like overall, as in it's a world above the standard Blitz 2 one, to be honest. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, I like it. It's a certain charm to that. It's like you're in for the long haul. I've been doing a little bit of Atari 8-bit coding there recently, and I've been doing that on the Atari 8-bit in an emulator, but still, like if you think this is bad, no undo. Like the thing has, you know, immense issues compared to having no undo. I'm pretty sure there is an extension for VS Code. I'm sure there is, or at least there's someone working on one, and someone has also worked on the scripts to load the code automatically into the Blitz editor and compile. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Amiga Bill's illegitimate son there will let you know. I think I haven't used it myself because I'm a sucker for this stuff. But yeah, you're right. It does. There's no kind of command line compiler or anything like that, or no cross compiler for Blitz. So what you usually do is you run Blitz in an emulator, and run VS Code, do your code, press a button, and a script will transfer that across and compile it for you. And that's as close as you're going to get. But it seems to work well. But yeah, so that is basically it, I think. I'll have to head off. I'm sorry, Vern. You're only just after getting here. But I'm gonna head off now. I'll do a bit more later on in the week. Hey, Clumpsy, thanks very much for the follow. Welcome along. What I'm going to do is I will prepare an image and I'll make sure it works, because once you start dealing with things like image structs and pointers, it gets rapidly crash happy. But I'm happy with that crash count of 0. So yeah, so I will leave it there. But listen, thanks very much, everyone. Thanks for the follows, and thanks for the raid, Prince Phase. Yeah, thanks very much for all the subscriptions and everything. Cool, it's awesome, guys. And yeah, I will talk to you again sometime soon. Sometime very soon. Yeah, later on this week, maybe next week, and I'll have some images ready and we can stick them in the GUI that we've just made. Alright, listen, thanks very much, guys. Oh, Night Shift, legend, thank you. There you are. That's awesome. And yeah, oh yeah, and yeah, no problem. Thanks at all. Thanks for coming along. And yes, and if you do have questions, give this a go over the few days. And if you come up with questions or whatever, trying to do something, yeah, just let me know and I'll try and go over it in the next stream. Okay, right. Where's the buttony thing I have for this? Okay, right. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys. Oh, let's go and raid someone. Sorry. I'll find someone quick to raid. Where are we? Who's on Twitch? Let's raid Proton Fig, will we? Let's raid Proton Fig. Because he's doing some programming as well. Sure, let's share the love. Here we go.